Hi, Richard once again from Brewing. We're looking at alcohol and alcohol content in the things that we make. And I really wanted to run through all the various options that we have available to us in terms of equipment and knowledge. The easiest way to work out our alcohol content is to take a hydrometer reading at the start of fermentation and then take another reading at the end of fermentation. We're thinking in terms of, for example, this is your hydrometer. We've got a band in the majority of the hydrometers from about 1.100 going up to 0.980. So that's your sort of band that you're looking at. A traditional beer is going to start at about 1040, that's 1.040. A wine, you're going to be 1.060 to 1.090, and your spirit, the wash on your spirit, is going to be about 1.100. And what will happen is, as the yeast converts the sugar into alcohol, the hydrometer drops further and further and further into the liquid. What we're basically doing is converting the sugar, this is measuring, into alcohol. The more sugar that is converted into alcohol, the thinner the liquid, and hence the higher the amount of alcohol. Let's take a beer then. If we take a start gravity on our beer at 1040 and the fermentation drops down to 1010, so that's 1.010. It drops down to that. We've dropped 30 points. And the way we work out the alcohol content is to take that 30-point drop and divide it by 7.362. That's going to give us approximately 4 and a bit % alcohol. If we're doing a wine, the gravity start might be 1.080 and we might drop down to a 1.000. We've dropped 80 points and we divide that by 7.362. It's going to come out at around 12%. So whatever the drop is, we divide it by 7.362, and this is going to give us a pretty accurate level as to how much alcohol content we have in our liquid. And I think alcohol is quite important these days, because if we've got friends coming round and they're drinking with us and we're giving them a glass of wine or a glass of beer, with driving I think it's really important that they know how strong this is. And we've heard so many people go, oh, I had a glass of that home-brewed wine and it was on my back within 20 minutes, it was that strong. The majority of stuff that we make from kits is totally comparable to commercial. So this gives you the advantage of being able to check it. So the first source available to us is the hydrometer. We've got what's called a hydrometer trial jar, and we would put the hydrometer into here, and that will give us a reading across the liquid line. So we're looking for a reading on this hydrometer across our liquid line. We have got other videos on the hydrometer, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into this. You can have a good look through our guide to use of a hydrometer. So the hydrometer is the first source that we have available to us. Second option we've got, a lot of people, when they've made their wine, suddenly decide, I'd really like to know what the alcohol content of the wine is. We haven't done a hydrometer reading at the start, and haven't done one well, we can do one at the end, but it's useless because we haven't done one at the start. We've got available to us what's called a Vinometer. This is a Vinometer. With the Vinometer, we've got a caliper going down there, which gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And obviously the more alcohol, the more that this is going to read. So can we imagine that we're going to put a little bit of liquid into the top of our reservoir here, and what we want to do is we want the liquid to drop down. I don't know if we can see that, but the liquid's coming out at the bottom. If it's quite strong, then we might need to just give it a blow to get the liquid to come out. Once we've seen the liquid coming out, we then get rid of the discharge of the little bit there that we don't need. we hold it up to the light, and you can see down the centre, obviously I'm afraid you're not going to be able to pick this up, but down the centre of this Vinometer there's a little bit of light dropping down the caliper, and when it stops we can then just turn it, and we've got a scale of 0 to 25 being the alcohol content. So it will drop, it will stop, and as we turn it we can see, for example here, that it's about 5%, here 10, and wherever it drops will tell us what the alcohol content is. Little primitive, they're about at £7 or £8, something like that, so they're not dead expensive. Some of them come with quite a nice case as well that they come in. That's an option available to you. That's called the Vinometer. The Vinometer. We've also got, for our spirit, when we're doing spirit distillation, we have a spirit hydrometer. So this is very similar to our standard hydrometer, but measures on a scale from 0 to 100. All we have to do is drop that into our spirit. Again, reading across the liquid line will tell us the actual strength of the spirit that we've got. So again, a trial jar, quite useful. We can drop it into the trial jar and take that reading. Now this spirit hydrometer is only to be used when you have distilled spirit. It is no good dropping it into your beer or your wine or your wash, because it won't give you an accurate reading. So when you ring me and say, Richard, I've got a problem, I'm getting 0 alcohol in my wash, I've dropped this in, I'll say, gives you no gauge at all. So don't use this on wine, beer or a wash. So that's your spirit hydrometer. Now with the spirit hydrometer again, we have 2 others which are available. These are more designed for people who are looking for a lot of accuracy. Now with these ones, again, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this, but this one is reading from 35 to 70. So anything between 35% ABV and 70 ABV, that's alcohol by volume, it will give you a reading. And the one that goes with it as well is this one, which will do us a reading of, get it out, and this one does a reading of 70 to 100. So you've got a lot of accuracy on those 2, but they are quite expensive, and they're obviously made of glass, so they need to be treated with a lot of care. Our final device that we have available to us is a refractometer, and this is a super piece of kit. I can't tell you how impressed I am. I've not played with one of these for years, and having had a play with it today before we started to do the video, I thought, wow, this is really something. It is excellent. What we've got here is we've got a tube that you look down and it actually lights up as we hold it to the light. So I'm now getting a really nice reading on here of 0 to 30% alcohol, and it's broken into lots of different segments as well. Once we've calibrated it, which the instructions will deal with, we then take our alcohol, and if we've got like a beer, for example, which I've got here, we just take a little bit of that beer into this tube and we can drop it into position there on the lens. Once we've dropped it on the lens, we just flip that down onto there, press it down so that we're getting a reading on the lens, and we just hold this up to the light, and that is now telling me I am a fraction over 5% ABV. Honestly, it's unbelievable. It's so good. Alistair, who helps me with the camera work, I'm wondering whether he's going to be able to get a picture of this, but if he can't, trust me, it's fantastic, and it really works out your alcohol content. So this can be used on anything up to about 30% alcohol, 30% ABV, because that's the scale that we've got here. You've also got here an adjustment here, I suppose a little bit like a telescope, an adjustment here just to get the thing into focus as you're looking through. So once you look through, you get into focus, you calibrate it using a bit of distilled water. We then put the alcohol onto this here, press that on, press it down and shine it through, and we can see the alcohol strength. Absolutely super. Comes with a little case, we've got a little thing for cleaning the lens, and it all comes in a very nice box. Really looks the business, just under £40. Those are all the bits that we've got available to us to check the alcohol content. If you are doing it commercially, none of these will do. You must send off your stuff for complete verification of the alcohol content. This is only for home use, but gives you the most wonderful guide as to where we are and whether we're plus or minus probably 0.1%. So they really are quite accurate. I hope that helps you.